charges. Notes the origins of the January in Thomaston, Georgia. He and his brother his Facebook status to say he was in a relationship and regularly posted very together. A job as a plumber at Gutters and Roofing Inc. and married in front of the motionless and bloodied body of the young man lying on the crying incessantly, gasping and begging the doctors to in shock. Mary had to visit the police station. Their relationship, at times nearly ending, then reigniting with new passion. The next day, dinner ended in tragedy. But Mary Catherine hated and possessive girl waiting for her to calm down. Despite 2 jurors out of 10 had doubts about some aspects of the evidence was presented against her, deliberated and during the commission of a crime, to walk out of the court for her well-being. Secretly, he began checking whom she was interacting with and went silent. Approximately 100 meters from the road and nearly a 5-hour drive from the location he allegedly took her. Tarakjot Singh was arrested and held in custody pending trial. Investigators determined that in the days leading up to her disappearance, Tarakjot Singh death of the young woman. It was found that on the day of the kidnapping, Singh had purchased zip ties, tape, Singh terms of understanding what desires were it, placed it in another device, and left it at his home. His lawyer described the act as a crime of passion and appealed for a more lenient daughter. Jasmine Kaur Creek is hard. The couple welcomed their first child together, where specially resolved the issue, but laid down rested she didn't even have time to turn around or understand what was happening. Cody had moved out of the family home and was living separately with his girl. He suggested on all charges. But let's return to this joyful note to the origins of the story, and try to understand together what led the young woman to the defendant's bench, and whether it could have been prevented. Stephen Andrew Freeman was born on January 1st, 1995, in Thomaston, Georgia, to Troy and Jennifer Freeman. He and his brother blinking, fishing, and even hunting together. In 2012, Stephen Freeman updated his Facebook status to say he was in a relationship and regularly posted various photos with his beloved. Mary's family was fond of her boyfriend. Steve's parents, in turn, also accepted his girlfriend as their own daughter. After graduating from school, the young people moved in together. Stephen got a job as a plumber at Drainwright Gutters and Roofing Inc., and Mary, she knelt in front of the motionless and bloodied body of the young man lying on the bed, crying incessantly, gasping and begging the doctors to help him. "I can't lose him. I can't lose him," she cried hoarsely. Law enforcement officers struggled to pull Mary Catherine away from the victim to examine him and provide first aid. 23-year-old Stephen Freeman, wounded in the chest just below the neck, was still breathing. He was immediately transported to Spalding Regional Hospital. Unfortunately, a few minutes before midnight, the young man's heart stopped, not fully comprehending the tragedy that had occurred and still in shock. Mary had to visit the police station to give her account of the events. She was called in for questioning, where the girl, still completely stunned, claimed that the shot was accidental. She explained that there had always been firearms in their home, and that Stephen would leave a pistol on the nightstand for self-defense before going to sleep, as their house was located outside the city. On that fateful evening, she merely wanted to hand Stephen the pistol, and it accidentally discharged. She had no idea the gun was loaded. Mary Catherine insisted that Stephen Freeman was the love of her life. She would never harm him, especially not intentionally. Examining the scene, investigators did not rule out the possibility that the act might have been premeditated, and they had substantial arguments to support this theory. There were signs of a struggle in the kitchen. These changing statements worked against Mary Catherine, as she was caught lying, and every word was scrutinized for hidden intent, indicating guilt concealment. Mary was detained and remained in Spalding County Jail during the trial. She was charged with felony murder, malice murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. Lieutenant Wilson vehemently contested Mary's claim of it being an accident and tried to prove her guilt in the deliberate and meticulously planned act. A new piece of evidence in this case was common cooking grease found on the slide of the pistol. The slide also had lubricant, suggesting that at some point, the magazine must have been emptied. Bullets were loaded, inserted back into the pistol and placed on a shelf. In her defense, Mary Catherine told the police that she indeed was preparing dinner for Stephen that evening, the very dinner that was found scattered on the kitchen floor, explaining the presence of grease on the slide. Subsequent interrogations of the couple's relatives and friends did not provide the clarity expected in this case. Many friends claimed that this teenage love turned into a roller coaster ride for Stephen and Mary until the very end. Their relationship, at times nearly ending, then reigniting with new passion, became genuinely complicated in recent years. The lovers often quarreled over emerging disagreements. Mary turned every argument into a drama. She screamed at Stephen and attacked him, after which he often left the house to spend the night with friends, turning off his phone as Mary continued to call and text him. She tried to control his every move, driving Stephen. The next day, July 31st, Stephen told his mother that he would not return home to that devil and stayed the night at Thomas's place. On August 1st, 2018, when Stephen didn't come home to sleep, Mary sent him hundreds of messages begging him to return. That evening, she prepared dinner and waited for her beloved. From Stephen's mother, she learned he was at his friend Thomas's place and went to pick him up. She encountered them on the road and, rolling down the window, shouted that she was waiting for him at home for dinner. Stephen replied that he was coming home. The evening, instead of a reconciliatory dinner, ended in tragedy. The police believed the case was closed as a premeditated act, driven by Mary Catherine's anger. But her defense team revealed another side to the young couple's life, known to few. On June 17, 2019, almost a year after Stephen's death, his beloved Mary Catherine Higdon stood trial. Before the hearing, Mary Higdon was offered a plea deal for life imprisonment with the possibility of parole if she pled guilty. However, she refused the deal, insisting she could never harm Stephen because he was the love of her life. At the initial hearings, Mary Higdon defended herself vehemently. She repeatedly claimed it was an accident and that she loved Stephen Freeman. She also surprised many by accusing her boyfriend of abusive behavior towards her. She claimed he hit her twice and even forced himself on her. On the day of the tragedy, he allegedly attacked her, and she had to defend herself. It turned out the couple's relationship had been deteriorating over some time. Friends and relatives claimed Mary Higdon was furious because Stephen often ignored her messages and calls. She demanded attention and pursued him, especially insistently lately. Allegedly, on the night of the act, when Stephen Freeman finally came home, he refused to eat the dinner Mary had prepared for him, which became the last straw for her. She couldn't hold back and fired at him. Prosecutor Kate Lenhard stated in court that there was physical evidence supporting that Mary Catherine shot Stephen in anger after he didn't come home for dinner and ignored her calls and text messages. As physical evidence, the grease found on the pistol and the sheet taken from the mattress where Stephen lay bleeding were presented. The sheet was shown as a key piece of evidence that Stephen was not attacking Mary, but was sitting still in one spot. Forensic experts examined the blood stains and determined that at the moment of the shot, Stephen was not moving or approaching Mary Catherine, but was calmly sitting on the bed. If he had been moving, blood would have been everywhere, not just in one corner of the sheet. This only confirmed that the accused's version was once again false. In court, faced directly with the possibility of life imprisonment and finally believing in what was happening, Mary Catherine took a risky decision to give truthful testimony in court. With tears in her eyes in front of the judge and numerous attendees, she once again portrayed Stephen Freeman as a harsh and controlling tyrant, and with certain evidence, she managed to do so. The defense stuck to the self-defense narrative, presenting the argument that erupted into a scandal between Mary and Stephen on the evening of the tragedy, where Mary fired at him in defense. Mary Catherine sorrowfully shared numerous stories from her life where Stephen had hurt her. She confessed he had repeatedly hit her face, shaken her, and threatened punishment for any minor misconduct or disobedience. Living with Stephen, I experienced all kinds of pressure imaginable. Verbal insults, physical attacks, been close to Mary for years, desperately trying to idealize their deceased friend. Thomas Skinner, Stephen's best friend, described the victim as a loyal and hard-working country boy, and Mary Catherine as an obsessive and possessive girlfriend who constantly controlled and stalked him. He claimed Mary Catherine and Stephen's relationship had become toxic over the last few years. with her threatening to end her life whenever Stephen tried to leave her, and once, after an argument, she pointed a pistol at her head in front of him. Another witness, Stephen's co-worker Alicia Varela, testified that Mary Catherine obsessively called Stephen throughout the day, even when he was at work. However, in Mary's supposedly truthful court testimony, where she framed the shooting as self-defense, she missed an important detail: paired food around the kitchen. Stephen, trying to avoid further conflict, went to the bedroom and sat on the bed. Likely he was waiting for her to calm down, but Mary, ready for confrontation, called out to him twice without receiving a response, walked into the bedroom, and shot him in the neck on the left side since he hadn't turned to face her. In her closing arguments, Kate Lenhard reminded the jury of the various stories and versions that kept changing at every police interrogation and court hearing. Mary Catherine Higdon spared no details in her emotional testimony about the alleged abuse from Stephen Freeman. But before handing the case over to the jury, Kate Lenhard desperately pleaded to consider this story not as a case of self-defense, but as a case of extreme manipulation. Despite the lost confession recording, the prosecution presented other evidence and counter-arguments. The forensic examination proved that Stephen Freeman was sitting on the bed at the moment of the shooting. Hence, he couldn't have been. The case was handed over to the jury. Just 10 minutes later, the jury was ready to announce their decision. However, 2 jurors out of 10 had doubts about some aspects of the prosecution's story. They were concerned that investigators, so eager to charge Mary Catherine with premeditated action, had not fully checked crucial facts. Questions were raised about the lack of a complete investigation into Stephen Freeman's phone, checking his text messages, and browsing history. The prosecution simply hadn't done this. Chris had in effect. The jury deliberated and returned a unanimous verdict: not guilty. A few hours later, Mary Catherine Higdon was free. After a lengthy deliberation, the 12 jurors concluded the following. On the first charge, malicious action, the defendant was found not guilty. On the second charge, serious action, the defendant was found not guilty. When the judge acquitted Mary Catherine Higdon on all charges, including intentional action, reckless action, assault with a deadly weapon, and carrying a weapon during the commission of a crime, many people in the courtroom were shocked. Watching the woman who took her son's life walk out of the court afforded a comfortable living in the bustling city. The young people spent a lot of time together, hanging out at work and catching up at cafes between university lectures. Over time, their friendship blossomed into a romantic relationship. By April 2020, the young couple was no longer hiding their relationship and started planning a future together. Jasmine was smitten with Tarek Jot's attention and care. He continuously expressed his devotion and love. Initially, it seemed like he was just very caring, but gradually his attentiveness became more intrusive. Tarek Jot started inquiring about Jasmine's every move, justifying it by saying he was concerned for her well-being. Secretly, he began checking whom she was interacting with on social media, and then started demanding reports on her every step. Jasmine felt that Tarek Jot's behavior had crossed all boundaries, but he managed to convince her every time that his total control was purely out of love and care. He would apologize and promise not to invade her personal space without reason, but these were just empty promises. Over time, Jasmine felt increasingly suffocated in her relationship with Tarek Jot. He strongly opposed her interactions with family and friends. This isolation deeply hurt. A car swiftly made its way through the city, adeptly avoiding surveillance cameras. After an hour's drive, the car came to a stop. The young man exited and helped the girl out. She was weak from the prolonged lack of oxygen. With cold efficiency, he retrieved tape and a cable from the trunk. Without a word, and with brute cruelty, he sealed her mouth and eyes with the tape, causing her eyelashes to stick together and pulling tightly on the delicate skin of her face. Then, the man tied her hands behind her back. She writhed in fear. Silence. There was nowhere to run. He pushed her, and when she fell, he tied her legs with the same cable. The victim moaned and squirmed on the dusty road. Her long, dark hair tangled, and her clothes became dirty. After binding her legs, he grabbed her hair and with a swift slash cut across her throat. The victim went silent. He placed the knife in a bag ranges. He led the police to the burial site, where they discovered Jasmine's shoes, glasses, and work ID badge in a trash bin, along with zip ties. She was exhumed 2 days after Tarakjot Singh was interrogated by the police at Morialta Creek, 40 kilometers north of Hawker, approximately 100 meters from the road and nearly a 5-hour drive from the location he allegedly took her. Tarakjot Singh was arrested and held in custody pending trial. Investigators determined that in the days leading up to her disappearance, Tarakjot Singh had meticulously prepared for the abduction and death of the young woman. It was found that on the day of the kidnapping, Singh had purchased zip ties, tape, and rope from a hardware store. Searches conducted at the residence where Tarakjot lived uncovered several SIM cards and phones, proving that he had carefully planned the abduction, even going as far as changing his SIM card to fabricate an alibi. On the night of the abduction, Singh switched cars with his apartment neighbor and asked him to cover his shift, then headed to the elderly home where Jasmine was working that day. Initially, Singh was charged with failing to report a death to the coroner before the charge was upgraded to homicide. Following the investigation, 21-year-old Tarakjot Singh from Karalta Park was charged with the homicide of 21-year-old Jasmine Kaur after her body was found buried at Morialta Creek. Singh first appeared via video link before the Port Augusta Magistrates Court on March 9th, where Judge Gregory Fisher ordered the accused's name and face to be withheld. Horrific details emerged during the sentencing at the Supreme Court. Prosecutor Carmen Mateo stated she had to be acutely aware of her hopeless situation, and she must have consciously suffered from what can only be described as absolute terror. Mateo also mentioned that the act was inefficient, and Jasmine Kaur was made to suffer. It is unknown when her throat was cut, unknown when and how she ended up in that grave or was placed there, and unknown when she was dug out, other than the accusation suggests that it must have happened while she was still alive and being prepared for burial. During the initial investigation into Jasmine Tower's death, Tarakjot denied any wrongdoing, continuously asserting that she took her own life. However, Judge Adam Kimber stated that Singh prepared a series of calculated steps over a certain period of time to commit the crime. Prosecutor Carmen Mateo informed the court that Miss Kaur had filed a police report claiming that Tarakjot Singh was stalking her on February 9th, about a month before she was assassinated. She said that Singh began cold and clinical planning of Miss Kaur's death after their relationship ended. The manner in which Jasmine Kaur was murdered indeed involved an extraordinary level of cruelty, she added. Martin Anders, the attorney representing Singh's interests, stated that 2 months before the tragic incident, the Singh and Kaur families had a meeting that resulted in a negative decision regarding the continuation of their relationship. He also mentioned that Singh's reasoning was seriously impaired following the end of their relationship. This is not someone who was really well-grounded in terms of understanding what desires were at placed it in another device and left it at his home to engage cell towers that would create the impression he was at or near his home. He punished her, a defenseless, innocent girl for rejecting him, she said. According to the prosecution, he forced her into the car, kept her on the back seat or in the trunk, took her a significant distance, ended her life, buried her, and disposed of any evidence that could implicate him in this crime. Judge Kimber sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. His lawyer described the act as a crime of passion and appealed for a more lenient sentence, but the request was denied. Relatives of Jasmine, who was buried alive, were present during the sentencing. In her statement, Jasmine's mother welcomed the verdict. "Today I don't feel happy. I wish I wasn't making this statement and that Jasmine was still here with me," she said. Rashpal Kaur told the court she is haunted by the thought of what her daughter Jasmine Kaur experienced in her final moments. "I go through the terrible sequence of events, wondering when she realized she was in mortal danger," the statement read. "There was no one to save her. She spent her last hour on this earth with the worst of humanity. Jasmine is gone, and I am devastated with grief. She was a precious little girl." Rashpal Kaur stated that Singh was obsessed with Jasmine, who had rejected him 100 times. She lost her life because Tarek Jot wanted to force her into marriage and force her into a relationship with him, she said. Mrs. Kaur stated she would never forgive Singh for what he had. The terror she must have felt when she was abducted, tied up and held in the car during the long drive to Morallen Creek is hard to fathom, said Judge Kimber. I cannot describe the horror that Miss Kaur must have felt when she realized that you were burying her alive. The court heard that Singh did not reveal details about how he abducted Miss Kaur from her workplace or what he did with her in the subsequent hours. However, Judge Kimber stated there was clear evidence that she suffered greatly and was forced to endure a long car ride while bound and gagged. After the sentence was announced, Judge Adam Kimber said it was clear that the crime was premeditated and that Singh took steps to conceal his horrific actions. The enormity of what you did must have been clear to you, said the judge. The need for a particular activity or interaction with a certain person or group. It's tragic when addiction affects not just the individual, but also their loved ones who strive earnestly to help. The once prosperous and happy Amado family faced such a dilemma head-on. As all family members were healthcare professionals, they believed they could handle the situation without external help. By the time they realized the severity of the situation, it was regrettably too late. This isn't a story of mere addiction, but of a young man's extreme obsession with a woman he had never personally met. Compounded by his addiction to forbidden substances and a pathological inclination towards theft, the situation spiraled into a horrifying outcome. Let's delve into this case to understand if there was a chance to alter the course of events and prevent the tragedy. The family home bloodshed. On January 25, 2019, a concerned man contacted the Seminole County Police in Florida. He reported that his close friend and colleague, Cody Amato, a nurse, unexpectedly didn't show up for his shift at the hospital, which was highly unusual for him. The day before, Cody had left work about 15 minutes early due to some urgent family issues at home, departing so hastily he even forgot to collect his pay for the day, implying that the owner had taken them. Grant was declared a person of interest and a search was initiated for his whereabouts. What's known about the Amato family? Margaret Ann Amato, née Wade, and Chad Robert Amato tied the knot in the mid-1980s. Margaret, 2 years senior to Chad, was already raising a 3-year-old son, Jason, from a previous marriage. Chad wasn't deterred by her having a child. Instead, he was ready to raise Jason as his own. In 1988, the couple welcomed their first child together, a son named Cody, followed by the certain privileges. They had to adhere to family rules, excel in school, help with household chores, and exhibit good behavior. They strived to be the pride and support of their parents. Both parents held advanced degrees in healthcare. Margaret was a senior operational manager in a prestigious private clinic, while Chad, initially a clinical pharmacist, later shifted to software specialization. The family was quite affluent, living in a spacious suburban home with their own stable, breeding thoroughbred racehorses as a hobby. Private interaction, of course, came at a cost. Grant easily accessed funds from his parents' and older brother's accounts for these activities. This obsession quickly spiraled into an addiction, compounded by regular alcohol consumption. But Grant seemed content with this lifestyle, living off his family, spending their money without contributing anything in return. Eventually, his father issued an ultimatum: find a job soon, or he'd have to leave home and lose any financial support from the family. Grant promised his father to resolve the issue but had no real intention of seeking employment. He claimed he would become a streamer, earning by broadcasting video games. His parents, seeing this as better than nothing, agreed to set up a streaming station for him. Once everything was in place, Grant pretended to be streaming, asking for privacy. But in reality, he was locked in his room, indulging in his favorite pastime, visiting adult-only websites. Trip to Japan, her with gifts like expensive lingerie and jewelry, which she would wear during their video chats. Desperate to impress Sylvie, Grant constantly fabricated stories, losing touch with reality. He claimed to live alone in a large house, own a successful business, and could afford to lavish her with money. He backed up his claims with money transfers, initially sending a couple of $1,000, then $10,000 and even $100,000 as a birthday gift. Naturally, Grant's lavish spending didn't go unnoticed by his parents, as he was using their accounts. At first, he explained it as investments in his own online project to attract an audience, but Chad and Margaret quickly realized their son was lying. Scandal, escape, and rehab clinic. A serious family dispute erupted at home. The patriarch demanded that the youngest son immediately pack his things and leave, but his mother and Cody intervened on Grant's behalf. The family understood that Grant was suffering from severe internet addiction. However, they were baffled about how he had spent nearly $200,000 from their accounts. A thorough search in his room uncovered vials of potent substances. Grant explained he used them to keep from going insane. The parents announced they would cut off his access to their accounts and intended to send him for mandatory treatment of their intimate private online interactions that Grant treasured and often revisited. The Amatos decided to inform Sylvie that her admirer, who had showered her with money and gifts, was not a businessman, but an ordinary unemployed man with drug and internet addictions. They also pointed out that the funds return. On January 5th, 2019, just a couple of weeks into his treatment, Grant made an abrupt return home, having completed less than a quarter of the necessary rehabilitation program. He had fled the clinic, where he was noted for his complete lack of compliance. Grant tearfully vowed to turn his life around and find employment, but threatened to end his life if forced to return to the rehab center. His parents agreed, but laid down. Remember the previously mentioned home gun collection? Chad had kept it in a special large safe, the key to which he trusted no one. However, Grant knew about another gun stored in his parents' bedroom, always kept loaded by his father, and it was this gun he decided to use. His mother was sitting at the computer in the home office when her youngest son quietly approached her from behind and shot her in the back of the head. The position of her body suggested she didn't even have time to turn around or understand what was happening. Next was his father, who was about to return home from work. As soon as Chad entered the kitchen, he was confronted face to face with Grant and immediately received 2 bullets to the chest. Grant tensely contemplated his next move, devising an even more monstrous plan. He decided to frame his own brother Cody, the only person who had always stood up for him, helped him, and been his best friend. By then, Cody had moved out of the family home and was living separately with his girlfriend. To lure Cody home, Grant used his now deceased father's phone to send several messages asking him to come home immediately because something terrible had happened. He didn't elaborate, confident that this information would be enough to make his brother rush home from work. Grant's calculation was correct, and Cody indeed arrived, even leaving work early. Entering the house, he only made it to the bottom of the staircase leading to the second floor before being shot and collapsing. Cody didn't die instantly. He had time to realize the horror of the situation, but was powerless to change it. After eliminating his family, Grant coldly wiped his fingerprints off the pistol, placed the weapon in his brother's hand to leave his prints, and then left it next to the body, making it look as if Cody had shot their parents and then himself. The rest of the evening, the killer calmly packed his things, downloaded video files of his communications with Sylvie from the computer, and even texted the girl. Having finished his affairs, he loaded his essentials into the car and drove away. Arrest and trial. It took the police just over a day to track down and arrest Grant, who was hiding in a small roadside motel in Orange County. He wasn't surprised, more disappointed that he was found so quickly, but he vehemently denied any guilt. During his interrogation at the station, he spun unbelievable tales about his father's incredible cruelty, alleging mistreatment towards him, his mother, and brother. Grant also spoke of his father's attempts to separate him from his beloved girlfriend Sylvie, whom he claimed to share true and pure love with. Regarding the events at their family home on the evening of January 24th, 2019, his account was confusing and inconsistent. He suggested that his father and brother had a fight, Cody grabbed a gun, and ended Chad's life, with Margaret being an accidental victim. Grant claimed he could only guess the chronology of these horrific events, as he wasn't a witness himself, stating he spent the night in his car with his belongings after his father kicked him out. In the morning, he said he simply drove away, unaware of the tragedy that had unfolded at home. His story sounded disjointed and implausible, and the evidence indirectly pointed to him as the sole perpetrator. As a result, Grant was arrested as the primary suspect in the triple homicide of his family members. He was held on a $750,000 bond, which he was unable to post, and thus remained in custody awaiting trial. The trial commenced on July 15, 2019. Notably, almost all witnesses who testified in court spoke against Grant, including his older brother Jason, relatives, and Cody's friend Jeremy, whom Grant had stolen money from during their trip to Japan. Those who knew the defendant personally described him as prone to various addictions, a pathological thief, and a liar. The main piece of evidence against Grant was a significant bank transfer from Chad's account to his younger sons. This transaction occurred late at night when all family members were already deceased. To confirm the transaction, the defendant had used his deceased father's finger for identification. The prosecution pushed for the death penalty, while his defense argued that Grant was ill and needed treatment. The final verdict was delivered on August 12, 2019. The court found 30-year-old Grant Amato guilty of first-degree triple homicide and sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
Have you ever thought what lies behind the surface of a picture-perfect family? The Chris Watts family murders expose a horrible truth that stunned the nation. In August 2018, the peaceful community of Frederick, Colorado, was thrown upside down when Shanann Watts, 15 weeks pregnant, and her two girls, Bella and Celeste, vanished. What followed was a clarifying investigation involving over 200 law enforcement personnel, costing more than $1 million, and many hours of forensic work. This isn't just a tale to satisfy curiosity. It's a deep dive into human behavior and the continual search for justice. True crime stories like this underline the critical work of investigators and remind us of the lengths taken to protect safety and justice. Chris and Shanann Watts investigated to have it all: a wonderful home, 2 adorable girls, and a newborn on the way. Shanann always highlighted their perfect existence on social media. Chris, working for Anadarko Petroleum, appeared to be a dedicated husband and father. However, behind the facade, the family experienced serious hardships. In 2015, they declared bankruptcy due to increasing financial obligations. Despite financial difficulties, Shanann maintained an attractive image online. On August 13, 2018, this illusion collapsed when Shanann returned from a business trip, and Chris reported her and their girls missing, starting a thorough investigation. What could have led to the surprising and mysterious disappearance of Shanann Watts and her 2 younger daughters within the early hours of August 13, 2018? Let's delve into the chilling occasions that unfolded in Frederick, Colorado. In the early hours of August 13, 2018, Shanann returned home from a trip to Arizona. Chris stated they battled about separating. Later, he reported Shanann and their girls missing. Chris contacted Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson, expressing concern over Shanann's unresponsiveness and missed doctor's visit. Alarmed, Nicole called the police for a welfare check. Police located Shanann's car at home with everything she had inside, but no sign of her or the girls. Chris's explanation about Shanann sending the kids to a friend's house didn't add up, raising issues. What did the investigation uncover about Chris Watts' involvement in the disappearance of his family? Let's delve into the crucial moments that led to the shocking revelations. As suspicions around Chris developed, detectives from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the FBI got involved. They uncovered images of Chris's co-worker, Nicole Kessinger, revealing an affair. Chris agreed to a polygraph test, which he failed. Confronted, he confessed to killing Shanann but initially lied about the girls. Eventually, he admitted the complete truth. Shanann's body was buried in a small grave near Chris's job site, and Bella and Celeste were recovered in oil tanks. This breakthrough supplied the evidence needed to charge Chris with multiple crimes. What were the legal repercussions for Chris Watts following his heinous crimes? Let's explore the intense court sessions and the final verdict that shocked the nation. On November 6, 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to all contributes to avoid the death penalty, avoiding Shanann's family a lengthy trial. The court sessions were powerful. with Shanann's relatives expressing their sadness and anger. Shanann's father, Frank Razuchek, identified Chris a soulless monster. On November 19th, Chris received 5 life sentences without parole, 3 served consecutively, 2 concurrently, plus 48 years for Shanann's pregnancy and 36 for tampering with bodies. The verdict gave closure, with widespread media attention, revealing the severity of Chris Watts' betrayal. What was the aftermath of Chris Watts' horrific actions? And how did it affect the community and those closest to the victims? Let's delve into the far-reaching consequences and the search for healing and justice. The impact of Chris Watts' crimes was significant, touching everyone from Shanann's destroyed family to the shocked Frederick community. The once beautiful Watts family house became a miserable reminder of the tragedy. The community supported Shanann's family through vigils and memorials, supporting their healing. Nickel Kessinger faced public scrutiny and went into hiding. Chris's prison confession revealed disturbing information, promoting domestic abuse awareness. Advocacy groups utilized the story to educate about seeking help and intervention. Law enforcement stressed multiple methods in addressing difficult situations. The Watts family killings remain a case study in the darkness behind closed doors and the search of justice and community support. How did Chris Watts transform from a seemingly loving father to a cold-blooded killer? Let's uncover the disturbing changes and final acts that led to this tragic outcome. Chris's transformation and final acts. Chris Watts' physical and emotional makeover expressed his behavioral changes. He grew detached and chilly, focusing on his affair with Nickel Kessinger. Shanann saw his unusual conduct during a family trip and suspected an affair, but rejected it. Chris confirmed he wanted a divorce and deactivated his Facebook account. The night before their trip to Colorado, he told Shanann he didn't want his third kid hurting her. Shanann uncovered a $60 restaurant charge, exposing Chris's infidelity, confirming her suspicions. Chris brought the girls to a birthday party and texted a co-worker to assure he would be alone at work the next morning. He spent 111 minutes on a call with Kessinger that night. Despite claiming a fit of anger, Chris had planned the killings for weeks, knowing what he would do when he put his girls to bed, converting from a loving father to a cold-blooded killer. What horrifying events unfolded on the morning of August 13, 2018? Let's delve into the tragic and chilling actions that took place. On August 13, 2018, Chris collapsed his girls with pillows before returning to argue with Shanann about his affair and desire for a separation. Shanann, upset, told him he would never see the kids again if he left. Fueled by anger, Chris strangled her. Bella and Cece woke up and looked into what was wrong with Mommy. Chris felt no desire to comfort them. He fought to get Shanann's body down the steps, with Bella and Cece following. Chris drove to the oil site with his family's bodies, smothered Cece with her blanket, and put her into an oil tank. Bella, afraid, wondered whether he would do the same to her. Chris strangled her and forced her into a second oil tank. He dug a small grave for Shanann, feeling relieved, believing he was free to be with Nickel Kessinger. How did the investigation lead to the arrest and further confession of Chris Watts? Let's uncover the crucial moments that exposed his horrifying actions. After the murders, Chris made multiple calls to hide his tracks, informing the girls' school they would no longer attend and making excuses to his co-workers. Nicole Atkinson, stressed for Shanann, tried to enter into the Watts home and contacted the police. Chris went home to discover officers and friends searching for his family. He said Shanann and the daughters were at a friend's house, but inconsistencies encouraged suspicions. Police checked his neighbor's CCTV tape showing Chris backing his truck into the garage early that morning. This film, along with Chris's nervous manner during questioning, further incriminated him. On August 15, 2018, after failing a polygraph test, Chris admitted to killing Shanann but continued to claim she killed the girls. Eventually, he understood to all 3 murders, disclosing horrifying details. The finding of the victims confirmed his confession, with Shanann's body found in a shallow grave and the girls in separate oil tanks. Chris Watts was arrested and charged with many counts of first-degree murder, wrongful termination of a pregnancy, and tampering with deceased bodies. How did the public and media react to the shocking revelations of the Chris Watts case? Let's explore the intense scrutiny and widespread coverage that followed. The Chris Watts case soon received national and international interest. The media documented every development, from the first disappearance to the startling confessions in the judicial proceedings. True crime fans and the general public became drawn to the narrative, attempting to comprehend how a seemingly perfect husband and father could conduct such horrible deeds. News channels and social media were overflowing with discussions regarding the case. Many expressed their shock and disbelief, while others dived into understanding Chris's behavior and the various causes behind his acts. Shanann's social media posts were investigated, and the sharp contrast between her online portrayal of a happy family life and the terrible reality became a key component of the narrative. What was Nicole Kessinger's role in the Chris Watts case, and how did the public react to her involvement? Let's uncover the scrutiny and speculation surrounding her actions. Nicole Kessinger, Chris's mistress, also faced significant public scrutiny. Although she cooperated with the inquiry and was not charged with any crime, many questioned her involvement and whether she knew more than she stated. Kessinger went into hiding to escape the constant scrutiny from the media and public criticism. Her relationship with Chris, the time frame of their affair, and her conduct during the investigation were reviewed in detail. The public's concern with Kessinger's role in the tragedy reflected a greater curiosity about how such a horrible crime might unfold. How did the tragic events surrounding the Watts family affect their community and loved ones? Let's explore the profound impact and the collective efforts to heal and remember. The Watts family house, once a symbol of a beautiful residential life, became a chilling memory of the tragedy. Neighbors and neighborhood members struggled to reconcile the nice family they thought they knew with the terrible incidents that transpired. The Razuchek family, Shanann's parents, were public about their grief and the impact of the murder on their life. They received a wave of understanding from the public, which helped them cope with their terrible tragedy. The community went to vigils and built memorials to memorialize Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and the unborn Nico, creating a sense of solidarity and support for the grieving family. What lessons and awareness emerged from the tragic Watts case? Let's delve into the critical insights and increased vigilance against domestic violence. The Watts case drew increased awareness to the indications of domestic violence and the possibility for concealed hazards in seemingly regular relationships. Advocacy groups utilized the case to educate the public about the necessity of getting aid and responding when someone is in danger. Law enforcement agencies commented on the lessons learned from the investigation. The cooperation between local police, the CBI, and the FBI was important in identifying the case and bringing Chris to justice. The thorough effort of the detectives, including forensic analysis, digital evidence, and interrogation tactics, underscored the intricacy and attention involved in solving such murders. What is life like for Chris Watts behind bars? And how has his imprisonment affected those closest to him? Let's explore his time in prison and the ongoing impact of his crimes. Chris Watts will spend the duration of his life in prison, serving 5 years for life without any possibility of parole. His life behind prison is marked by isolation and an endless reminder of his actions. In letters from prison, Chris has professed regret and sought forgiveness, but his confessions indicated a disturbing detachment from the seriousness of his crimes. His parents, despite their initial defense of their son, have had to come to terms with the truth of his deeds. The conflict between Chris's family and Shanann's family remains, showing the deep scars left by the tragedy. How did the Chris Watts case shape the landscape of true crime television and media? Let's explore the profound impact and the ethical debates it sparked. True crime media has been greatly influenced by the Chris Watts case, with books, podcasts, and movies devoted to examining every facet of the catastrophe. In order to give a thorough description of the events, Shanann's social media posts, police body cam footage, and text messages were used in the documentary American Murder: The Family Next Door, which was distributed by Netflix. The popularity of real crime stories is rising, and this documentary and others have helped to fuel that enthusiasm. The case has spurred debates over the morality of real crime reporting. Some contend that these kinds of tales serve to increase awareness and stop catastrophes in the future, but others feel they may be exploitative and callous to the relatives of the victims. In particular, The Watts case has brought up concerns about the impact of public scrutiny on bereaved families and the appropriate amount of personal information to release. How did the Chris Watts case influence the true crime genre and spark debates on journalistic ethics? Let's delve into its impact on reality crime media and the ongoing discussions it has generated. The true crime genre has been tremendously touched by the Chris Watts case, with various books, podcasts, and documentaries covering every facet of the tragedy. The incidents were documented in depth in the documentary American Murder: The Family Next Door, which was released on Netflix. It used Shanann's social media posts, police body camera footage, and text conversations. The popularity of true crime stories has grown, in part because of documentaries like this one. Talks concerning the morality of true crime journalism have been spurred by this instance. Others think these kinds of stories can be exploitative and inconsiderate to the relatives of the victims, despite the fact many claim they assist increase awareness and stop catastrophes in the future. In particular, the Watts case has sparked debate over the appropriate amount of personal information to divulge and the effects of media attention on bereaved families. What reforms in law and procedure have been prompted by the Chris Watts case? Let's explore the changes being discussed to improve the handling of domestic abuse cases. Possible changes to the way domestic abuse cases are handled have come up for debate as a result of the Chris Watts case's investigation and court processes. In order to identify the warning indications of coercive control and domestic violence, some have asked for law enforcement personnel to receive improved training. Others push for more robust victim support networks that provide victims with quicker access to legal and counseling services. The case has also highlighted how crucial digital evidence is to contemporary investigations. Finding the truth required analyzing security footage, social media posts, and text messages. In an effort to help solve complicated cases, law enforcement organizations are concentrating more and more on digital forensics and creating new methods and tools in this area. How have the families of Shanann and Chris Watts coped with the aftermath of this tragedy? And what persistent struggles do they face? Let's explore their ongoing reactions and challenges. The consequences of the tragedy is still being dealt with by Shanann's family. They have spoken out against domestic abuse, taking part in campaigns and speaking engagements in honor of Shanann and her kids. Their advocacy efforts and tenacity have served as an inspiration to millions, transforming their suffering into a catalyst for progress. Conversely, Chris's family has experienced hardships of their own. At first, everyone stood up for Chris because they couldn't believe he could do such things. They have had to deal with his remorse over time, negotiating the difficult feelings of betrayal, grief, and public scrutiny. Both families have long-lasting wounds from the case and poor relationships. How have Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and unborn Nico been remembered and honored after their tragic loss? Let's explore the memorials and tributes that celebrate their lives. The killings of the Chris Watts family are a terrifying reminder of the risks that lurk behind closed doors. Frederick, Colorado, and many who followed the case were forever changed. Shanann Watts is respected for her bright nature and strong commitment to her family. Her family encouraged victims and raised awareness of domestic abuse as a way to deal with their grief. Events held in the community provide forums for grieving and healing. Recovery was significantly helped by public support, which included contributions to organizations that fight domestic abuse. These days, early detection of domestic abuse is given prominence in educational programs. The case is an essential educational resource for appreciating familial homicide and domestic abuse. Debatable topics included the ethics of reporting genuine crime in light of the extensive media coverage. Respect for victims is balanced with the public interest in responsible journalism. Research in the fields of sociology, psychology, and criminology has benefited from the Watts case. The necessity of ongoing awareness raising and assistance for victims of domestic abuse is highlighted by its global impact. The memory of the Watts family demands that society guarantee victims' rights, stop needless violence, and provide justice. That being stated, I want to...
Jaden Hartwell, a charming 45-year-old investment banker, and his wife Karen, a 42-year-old art gallery curator, with a picture of success and sophistication. Their large 5-bedroom house, complete with neatly trimmed lawns and high-end cars parked in the driveway, was the envy of everyone in their neighborhood. For 15 years, The Hartwells had been community leaders, known for hosting extravagant parties, generously supporting local charities, and being active members of the country club. Their 2 children, Penelope and Atticus, shone brightly in their private school and extracurricular activities. To the outside world, the Hartwells were living the American dream. But beneath their seemingly perfect life, trouble was brewing. By the spring of 2023, the facade started to crack, revealing a story of betrayal, illness, and revenge that would stun the entire community. What unfolded next made friends, family, and neighbors question everything they thought they knew about the Hartwells. In finance, first noticed Karen at a campus art exhibition. She was a junior studying art history, her eyes glowing with enthusiasm as she discussed a particularly striking abstract painting with a captivated audience. Intrigued by her intelligence and beauty, Jaden approached her once the crowd had dispersed. He stumbled over his words while introducing himself, but Karen was charmed by his genuine interest in her work and his quick wit. They ended up talking for hours that night, losing track of time as they discovered their mutual love for travel, fine dining, and classic literature. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic gestures and intellectual conversations. Jaden swept Karen off her feet with surprise picnics in the university's botanical gardens, late-night study sessions that evolved into deep talks about their dreams, and weekend excursions to explore the city's vibrant art scene. After graduation, Jaden secured a prestigious job at an investment firm while Karen pursued her master's degree in art curation. Despite their demanding schedules, their relationship continued to thrive. They celebrated each other's successes and offered support during setbacks. In the spring of 2008, Jaden proposed to Karen atop the Willis Tower at sunset. He had arranged a private dinner in the sky deck, surrounded by the sparkling city lights they both adored. Overwhelmed with emotion, Karen said yes without hesitation. Their wedding, held the following year at the Botanical Garden, was a grand event that perfectly combined Jaden's love for luxury with Karen's artistic flair. They welcomed their daughter, Penelope, followed by their son, Atticus, 2 years later. Parenthood brought new challenges, but also strengthened their bond. They faced sleepless nights and diaper duties together, their love growing stronger with each passing day. To everyone who knew them, Jaden and Karen Hartwell appeared to be the ideal couple destined for lifelong happiness. However, subtle changes started to emerge in their relationship. Back her work at the gallery to focus on their children, found herself feeling increasingly isolated. The intimate dinners and weekend getaways that once defined their relationship became infrequent. Jaden's frequent absences were often attributed to late nights at the office and business trips. At first, Karen tried to be understanding. She threw herself into volunteer work and focused on the children's activities, convincing herself that Jaden's dedication to his career was for the family's benefit. However, Esm was fine and that he was simply under a lot of pressure at work. As 2022 drew to a close, Karen's uneasy feeling grew stronger. Something was wrong, and it went beyond the normal stresses of a busy life. Little did she know, the true extent of the problems in her marriage was about to come to light in the most devastating way possible. The seeds of destruction for the Hartwell marriage were sown on a crisp autumn evening in September 2022. Jaden attended a charity gala at the Art Institute, an event where his wife would typically be by his side. But with Karen at home caring for their ill son, Atticus, Jaden had to go alone. It was here that he first encountered Viviana Rees, a 32-year-old rising star in the financial world who had recently joined a competing firm. Viviana was everything Karen wasn't: young, driven, and free from family obligations. Her elegant black dress and self-assured presence immediately grabbed Jaden's attention. They ended up seated at the same dinner table, and as the night went on, Jaden found himself drawn to Viviana's sharp mind and deep understanding of finance. Jaden tried to convince himself it was just a professional interest, but thoughts of Viviana stayed with him long after he got home. In the weeks that followed, Jaden and Viviana started meeting regularly under the pretext of networking and exploring potential collaborations between their firms. Coffee meetings turned into working lunches and then into after-work drinks. Each time, Jaden found himself sharing more about his personal life, including his frustrations at home and the pressures of his job. Viviana,
intrigued by Jaden's power and success, saw him as a potential mentor and maybe something more. She offered sympathy and support that Jaden felt was missing from his life. The line between work and personal life began to blur. A late-night strategy session at Viviana's apartment led to their first kiss. Overwhelmed by desire and the thrill of the forbidden, Jaden crossed a line he hadn't thought he would. Driving home that night, he felt a mix of guilt and exhilaration. He promised himself it would be a one-time mistake and that he would end it right away. February 2023, while Jaden's affair with Viviana was intensifying, Karen received news that would rock her world. What she initially thought were symptoms of fatigue and stress turned out to be something much more serious. After a series of tests and a biopsy, Karen was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. When she got the diagnosis, Karen sat alone in the sterile exam room, her mind reeling as the oncologist explained her treatment options. She felt numb, barely able to grasp the details about chemotherapy, radiation, and survival rates. All she wanted was her husband's support, but Jaden was unreachable, his phone going straight to voicemail. When Karen finally managed to tell Jaden that evening, his reaction was a mix of shock and what she perceived as emotional detachment. He held her as she cried, murmuring comforting words, but she felt he was mentally elsewhere. She attributed his distance to the stress of the diet. The timing of Karen's illness was especially difficult, coming just as his affair with Viviana was becoming more intense. He felt torn between his duties to his wife and his growing feelings for his mistress. The strain of managing his double life while supporting Karen began to take its toll. As Karen prepared for her first round of chemotherapy, she sought emotional support from Jaden, hoping to reconnect with her husband during this challenging time. But the man she once saw as her rock now seemed distant and unreachable. Little did she know, the worst of his betrayal was yet to be revealed. As winter gave way to spring, Jaden Hartwell was living two completely separate lives. By day, he was the supportive husband, accompanying Karen to chemotherapy sessions, managing the household, and maintaining a facade of normalcy for their children. By night, he was Viviana's passionate lover, escaping into a world of excitement and freedom from family responsibilities. The guilt from his infidelity, combined with Karen's illness, gnawed at Jaden. He threw himself into his work with renewed energy, using it as an excuse to avoid confronting the reality of his actions. Late nights at the office became his refuge, a place to escape from his choices. Karen, weakened by her treatments and focused on her recovery, initially thought Jaden's absences were due to the demands of his job and the stress of her illness. She relied heavily on her sister Imogen and a close group of friends who supported her during this difficult period. They provided the emotional support that seemed to be missing from Jaden, although none of them voiced their concerns about his behavior. Meanwhile, Viviana grew increasingly impatient with the limits of their relationship. She pressed Jaden for more of his time and attention, hinting at a future together. Jaden, unable to fully commit but reluctant to let her go, promised her a vacation together once things calmed down at home. As Karen's treatment progressed, the strain on the family became evident. Penelope, now 12, became withdrawn and sullen, struggling with her mother's illness and her father's frequent absences. 9-year-old Atticus developed anxiety, clinging to Karen and breaking down easily. The once happy home became a place of tension and unspoken resentment. Friends and neighbors began to notice the shift in the Hartwell family dynamic. Whispers spread at school pickups and neighborhood gatherings. Despite her frail condition, Karen sensed that something was fundamentally wrong but was too exhausted to confront him directly. The breaking point was nearing, and it would come in a way none of them could have foreseen. As Jaden arranged his escape with Viviana, he had no inkling that his meticulously crafted facade was about to crumble. When July 2023 arrived, bringing with it a sweltering heat wave, Jaden made a decision that would irreversibly impact his life and those around him. With Karen's chemotherapy treatments continuing through the summer, Jaden claimed he needed to take a business trip to finalize an important deal in the Cayman Islands. Karen, pale and drained from her latest round of treatment, Jaden felt a pang of guilt as he looked at his wife, but it wasn't enough to sway him from his plans. In truth, there was no business deal, Jaden had arranged a week-long romantic retreat with Viviana, using his connections to book a luxurious private villa on a secluded beach. As he packed his bags, tucking gifts for Viviana among his clothes, he rationalized his actions. He convinced himself that he deserved this break, that the stress of recent months justified a bit of happiness. When Jaden and Viviana arrived at their tropical paradise, they abandoned all caution. They spent their days lounging on the beach, sipping cocktails, and indulging in gourmet meals. Their nights were filled with passion, both savoring the freedom to be together openly. Jaden pushed thoughts of Karen and the kids to the back of his mind, immersing himself entirely in the fantasy of a life with Viviana. Back home, Karen's condition worsened. The side effects of her latest treatment left her bedridden and feverish. Imogen moved in temporarily to assist with the children and Karen's care. Frustrated by Jaden's absence, she repeatedly tried to contact him, but his phone remained unanswered. It was Penelope, inadvertently, who set the events in motion that would reveal Jaden's betrayal. Concerned about her mother and angered by her father's absence, she decided to use the emergency credit card Jaden had given her to order flowers for Karen. When the card was declined, Penelope called customer service, pretending to be Karen to inquire about recent transactions. The customer service representative, deceived by Penelope's act, disclosed a list of charges from the Cayman Islands, luxury restaurants, high-end boutiques, and a jewelry store. Distressed and confused, Penelope shared this information with Imogen. With her suspicions confirmed, Imogen decided to take action. She hired a private investigator who quickly uncovered the truth about Jaden's supposed business trip and his ongoing affair with Viviana. Armed with this information, Imogen sat down with Karen to reveal the extent of her husband's betrayal. With gentle words but unwavering honesty, she shared the evidence collected by the investigator, photos of Jaden and Viviana together in the Cayman Islands, records of extravagant purchases, and time-stamped footage of them entering and leaving their villa. Karen listened in stunned silence, gripping the arm of her chair as the full scope of Jaden's deceit became clear. A wave of emotions, shock, anger, humiliation, washed. Karen began to devise her plan for revenge. She refused to let cancer or her husband's betrayal define her. Instead, she resolved to take control of her own story and secure her future on her own terms. As Karen processed the devastating reality of Jaden's infidelity, she underwent a profound transformation. The initial shock and heartbreak quickly gave way to a cold, calculated anger. Despite her physical frailty, Karen's mind sharpened with purpose. She recognized that while cancer threatened her life, Jaden had chosen to destroy their marriage. During the quiet hours of the night, as her children slept and Imogen kept vigil, Karen began to plan. She refused to be a victim, neither of cancer nor of her husband's betrayal, set her plan into motion. She began by meticulously documenting Jaden's affair and his abandonment during her illness. Then, she reached out to her former contacts in the art world, discreetly inquiring about quick private sales for several valuable pieces from their collection. The most crucial and risky part of her plan involved their joint assets. Using the power of attorney Jaden had granted her for emergencies, Karen started the process of liquidating their accounts. She worked tirelessly, making calculated moves to convert their investments into cash without raising immediate alarms. Fueled by a mix of righteous anger and newfound determination to secure her children's future, Karen set up new accounts in her name only, transferring funds with precision. The family's vacation home in Michigan was quietly put on the market and sold to a cash buyer within days. Throughout this whirlwind of activity, Karen maintained the outward appearance of a woman focused solely on her health. She continued her treatments, attended support group meetings, and managed to maintain a normal routine for Penelope and Atticus. Only Imogen knew the full extent of Karen's actions, serving as both confidant and accomplice in her sister's bold plan. As the days passed and Jaden's return drew near, Karen felt a grim satisfaction. She had regained control in the most profound way possible. Now, all that remained was to wait for the man who had betrayed her to come home and face the consequences of his actions. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in late July, Jaden Hartwell returned from his Cayman Islands trip, tanned and relaxed. As he pulled into the driveway of their Riverton mansion, he felt a twinge of guilt, knowing he would have to resume his role as devoted husband and father. Little did he know that his carefully constructed double life was about to implode. Entering the unusually quiet house, Jaden called out for Karen and the children. The silence that greeted him was unsettling. He made his way to the kitchen, where he found a thick manila envelope on the counter, his name written in Karen's elegant script. With growing apprehension, Jaden opened the envelope. Inside, he found divorce papers and a letter from Karen detailing her knowledge of his affair and his absence during her cancer treatments. The final paragraph of the letter informed him that she had liquidated their joint assets, taking what she deemed her fair share after years of supporting his career and raising their family. As panic set in, Jaden rushed to his home office and attempted to log into their online banking accounts, only to find access denied. Jaden immediately reached out to his investment manager, only to be informed that most of their portfolio had been liquidated over the past week. The vacation home was sold, and their valuable art collection was gone. As the gravity of his situation hit him, Jaden slumped into his leather office chair, his mind spinning. His phone buzzed with a message from Viviana, inquiring about their plans for the upcoming weekend. Jaden stared at the screen, realizing that the life he had once desired now seemed empty and misguided compared to everything he had lost. At that moment, he heard the front door open, followed by footsteps approaching his office. The steps were too heavy to be Karen's. The door swung open to reveal Imogen, her face a mask of icy fury. Jaden understood immediately that she was here to ensure he fully grasped the extent of his errors and the consequences that were just beginning to unfold. Special Agent Vega from the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division was assigned to investigate the case. Her team embarked on a thorough examination of the Hartwell's assets, searching for signs of fraudulent activity or money laundering. They uncovered a detailed network of transactions, all meticulously documented and, surprisingly, entirely legal. Karen had used her power of attorney within her rights, and her actions were carefully kept within legal boundaries. However, the investigation did expose questionable financial practices on Jaden's part. His expense accounts revealed a pattern of extravagant spending that extended well beyond his trip with Viviana. There were irregular cash withdrawals, undeclared gifts, and indications of attempts to conceal assets offshore. As Agent Vega delved further, she discovered connections between Jaden and several companies that had recently been under investigation for insider trading. Although Jaden was not directly implicated, the evidence suggested that he had been treading a thin, ethical line in his professional dealings. By the spring of 2024, nearly a year after the Hartwell family's downfall, the case finally went to trial. Jaden's attorneys tried to portray Karen as a vindictive woman who had overreacted to a minor indiscretion, illegally seizing assets in a fit of jealousy. They argued that her actions had not only ruined Jaden's life, but had also negatively impacted their children and potentially jeopardized client funds at his firm. Karen's legal team, led by the sharp-eyed Ezra Cruz, methodically dismantled this argument. They presented evidence of Jaden's long-term affair, his neglect during Karen's cancer treatment, and the documented trail of his own financial misdeeds. Witnesses, including Imogen and several of Jaden's former colleagues, testified about his erratic behavior and ethical lapses leading up to the revelation of his infidelity. The most damning testimony came from Viviana Rees, who, in exchange for immunity, exposed the full extent of her relationship with Jaden. She detailed his promises to leave Karen and his dismissive remarks about his wife's illness. As the trial progressed, it became clear that the case had evolved beyond a mere divorce proceeding. The judge had to consider not only the dissolution of the marriage, but also the potential criminal aspects of Jaden's financial dealings. After weeks of dramatic testimony and skillful legal maneuvering, the court prepared to deliver its verdict. Jaden was found guilty of multiple financial crimes and was sentenced 3 years in a...
Ever wondered how a apparently solid lifestyles can unexpectedly turn into a nightmare? Today, we delve into the sort of story, the tragic story of Staff Sergeant Nathan Pay, who turned into shockingly murdered by using his own wife. Before we get into the heartbreaking details, let's first explore how financial downturns can impact our daily lives. including job losses and financial struggles. Stay with us for valuable insights on navigating both financial and personal crises. If you find our content useful, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more updates. Let's dive into these gripping stories and learn together. Your support helps us create more informative content for you. A night that changed everything. Staff Sergeant Nathan Pay was known for his dedication and reliability. The true crime genre has been tremendously touched by the Chris Watts case, with various books, podcasts, and documentaries covering every facet of the tragedy. The incidents were documented in depth in the documentary American Murder. His family, alarmed by the noise, ran to find Nathan bleeding on the doorstep. This horrifying scene turned an ordinary night into a nightmare, revealing dark secrets and devastating truths. The quest for answers had just begun, uncovering a web of betrayal and hidden motives. What seemed like a tragic accident was soon discovered to be part of a far darker plot. Rushed departure, a race against time. Nathan, realizing he was late for duty, quickly woke his wife Michelle and hurriedly jumped into the shower. The urgency of the moment was palpable as he hastily got dressed and prepared to leave. After a rushed goodbye to his annoying family, he headed to the garage. The quiet night time was all of a sudden shattered by way of the sound of loud gunshots. Nathan's family, drawn with the aid of the terrifying noise, ran to discover him bleeding and on the point of crumble. Michelle, gripped with the aid of worry and panic, rushed to her husband's facet. Despite her determined attempts to assist him, Nathan fell to the ground, converting their lives forever. This sudden and violent occasion plunged the family into a nightmare, marking the beginning of a tragic and harrowing journey. The regular nighttime had was a scene of horror and depression, leaving them grappling with the surprise and trying to find answers. Tragic event. The horrifying scene unfolds. Chaos erupted inside the Payon family as gunshots shattered the tranquility of the night. Nathan's family, alarmed and drawn with the aid of the noise, rushed to the scene, simplest to discover him bleeding profusely on your doorstep. The sight turned into scary and surreal. Michelle, overwhelmed with fear and panic, ran toward her husband, determined to help. Before she could reach him, Nathan collapsed, leaving her in shock and despair. This violent and sudden event plunged their lives right into a nightmare of blood and worry. The everyday nighttime had grew to become right into a scene of horror, marking the beginning of an impossible ordeal. The Own family became thrust into a devastating situation, grappling with the immediate aftermath and the looming uncertainty of what lay in advance. Desperate call, a plea for help. At 11:30 p.m., Michelle made a frantic 911 name, screaming for assist as Nathan lay bleeding from gunshot wounds. The dispatcher guided her through administering first aid, telling her to apply stress to the injuries and try CPR. Paramedics arrived quick, but notwithstanding their satisfactory efforts, Nathan's injuries were too extreme. He tragically died from a fatal neck wound at the younger age of 28. The news of his dying unfolded hastily, stunning the network. Friends, pals, and fellow service participants had been left in disbelief. Nathan's brutal murder sparked a public outcry, with needs for justice and solutions. The lack of any such committed serviceman and beloved circle of relatives man left a deep void within the community. Community outcry, demanding justice. The information of Nathan's loss of life spread swiftly, sending shockwaves via his tight-knit network. Known as a devoted serviceman and loving family guy, his brutal homicide sparked instantaneous outrage and disbelief. Friends, buddies, and fellow carrier individuals were shocked through the violent act, suffering to understand the mindless loss. Public outcry grew louder as human beings demanded justice, wondering who ought to devote any such heinous crime and what the reasons could be. Vigils were held, and social media buzzed with requires answers and responsibility. The network united in their grief, coming together to support Nathan's own family and to are searching for the fact. Determined to discover the overall story in the back of the tragedy, they rallied, insisting that the ones accountable be brought to justice. This collective resolve underscored the community's dedication to making sure that Nathan's legacy might no longer be forgotten and that justice might succeed. Background: Nathan's life and legacy. Born on February 12, 1982 in Tamuning, Guam, Nathan Joseph Figs Pei grew up in a close-knit family, loved for his amiable and diligent nature. From a young age, Nathan enjoyed the island life, with a passion for swimming and surfing in Guam's beautiful environment. In high school, he met Michelle Anon Achu, and their friendship blossomed right into a deep and enduring love. Despite facing severe challenges, they remained inseparable, supporting each other via lifestyles' ups and downs. Together, they constructed a life marked by means of love, dedication, and resilience. Their courting became a testimony to their commitment and mutual recognize. Nathan's legacy is considered one of love and devotion, leaving a long-lasting impact on people who knew him. The journey of love story. Nathan and Michelle's. When Michelle lost her mother, Nathan was her steadfast support, helping her through the difficult time. After graduating in 2000, Nathan proposed to Michelle, and they started their lifestyles together. Initially operating as a receptionist, Nathan soon found out he wanted a solid profession to guide their future. This led him to enlist in the Air Force, which brought stability, but additionally new challenges. Despite the pressures of Navy existence, their willpower to each other remained unwavering. Together, they confronted existence's demanding situations with resilience and backbone, building a domestic filled with love and dreams. Their enduring love and mutual support provided a strong foundation for his or her developing own family. Nathan and Michelle's adventure turned into a testimony to their deep bond and unwavering dedication to each other. Career and family life. Building a future together. Nathan's Air Force profession began at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, providing the financial balance needed for his developing family. During their time in Alaska, they built a house and welcomed their 2D infant, Nyara, into the sector. 6 years later, Nathan and Michelle celebrated their wedding ceremony, marking a proud and joyous moment for their family. Nathan's career endured to thrive, incomes him promotions and improved duties. His dedication to his activity and his UAS turned into unwavering, and it fueled their shared ambition to reap their desires. The stability and success of Nathan's career allowed them to attention on constructing a brilliant future together. Despite the demands of Army lifestyles, they remained devoted to their circle of relatives and every different, creating a loving and supportive surroundings. Nathan's expert achievement and their sturdy circle of relatives foundation had been a testimony to their tough work and determination. A new chapter moved to Nellis Air Force Base. In 2006, Nathan transferred to Nellis Air Force Base near Las Vegas, taking on a significant role. The family expanded with the birth of 2 more sons, Dron and David, and they bought a spacious house near the base. Initially, the new home brought joy and excitement. However, financial strains quickly overshadowed their happiness as the costs of their new lifestyle began to outpace Nathan's income. This financial pressure strained their relationship, testing even their strongest bonds. Despite their love and commitment, maintaining their family's well-being amidst growing financial concerns became a significant challenge. Financial strain and deployment to Iraq. To improve their financial situation, Nathan volunteered for deployment to Iraq in 2009. His 6-month deployment brought some relief, but upon returning, he felt pressured to go back for more financial benefits. Meanwhile, Michelle struggled with anxiety and the challenges of managing 4 children alone. Seeking stability, she sought employment and made new friends, dreaming of starting her own business. The physical and emotional distance from Nathan took a toll on their relationship. This strain eventually led Michelle to an affair with Michael Rodriguez, which provided an escape from her lonely and stressful life. The affair further complicated their already strained relationship, adding a layer of betrayal and secrecy. The signs of trouble. Unraveling. Relationship. By the end of 2009, Nathan was unaware of Michelle's affair, attributing her positive changes to personal growth and newfound confidence. Believing their relationship was improving, he resolved not to leave his family for extended periods anymore. Nathan sought ways to earn additional income without deploying again, hoping to provide stability. However, as financial pressures continued, Michelle's demeanor shifted dramatically. Her mood swings and erratic behavior revealed the unstable foundation of their apparent happiness. The once warm and supportive environment in their home grew tense, highlighting the cracks in their relationship. The facade of personal growth masked deeper issues that were beginning to surface, threatening the very fabric of their family life. As Thanksgiving 2010 approached, tension hung heavy in the Pei household. Nathan and Michelle's deteriorating relationship was evident to visiting family members, who noticed the strained interactions and forced conversations. The warmth and togetherness that once characterized their family gatherings were replaced by an uneasy atmosphere. Just a week after the strained holiday, Michelle exchanged messages with Michael Rodriguez, hinting at deeper connections and ongoing plans that went beyond a mere affair. These secret communications set the stage for the tragic events that would unfold on the night of December 1st, 2010. The underlying turmoil in their relationship was building towards a catastrophic climax unbeknownst to Nathan. The hidden betrayals and mounting tensions were about to erupt, leading to a night that would change everything forever. The night of the murder. On December 1st, 2010, Michelle's exchange with Michael Rodriguez hinted at their deeper connection and growing discontent. Michelle's dissatisfaction with her life had intensified, and the allure of financial benefits from Nathan's military insurance fueled a sinister plot. Motivated by greed and desperation, Michelle and Michael conspired to kill Nathan for the insurance money. To execute their chilling plan, they enlisted the help of accomplices Corey Hawkins, Jessica Austin, and Shannon. Together, they devised a methodical and calculated scheme to murder Nathan, believing it would solve their financial woes. The plot, driven by a combination of discontent and greed, set the stage for an evening of unimaginable betrayal and violence. The carefully orchestrated plan aimed to end Nathan's life and secure a financial windfall for Michelle and her co-conspirators. On the day of the murder, Michelle deviated from her usual schedule, arriving home early. Nathan, completely unaware of the sinister plot against him, continued his routine as normal. As he prepared to leave for work, Michael ambushed him, shooting Nathan 5 times in cold blood. The brutal attack left Nathan defenseless and fatally wounded. The assassins fled the scene quickly, meticulously destroying evidence and establishing their alibis to avoid suspicion. When emergency services arrived, they found a gruesome scene, marking the beginning of a complex investigation. This night of betrayal and violence set off a chain of events that would ultimately uncover the dark truth behind Nathan's tragic murder. The scene of the crime. Aftermath. Detective Todd Williams led the research, inspecting the bloody scene and ruling out theft as a purpose because of the shortage of stolen gadgets. The ugly nature of the crime hinted at deeper, darker secrets. Detective Laurie Anderson interviewed Michelle, whose mention of financial struggles raised suspicions. The police suspected hidden motives tied to Nathan's military insurance. This detail led to a deeper investigation into the family's finances and Michelle's personal life. The investigation exposed a web of deceit and betrayal, revealing the true extent of the sinister plot. The community was stunned as the dark truth behind Nathan's tragic death emerged, uncovering the truth in investigation. The police examined Nathan's phone, finding only family photos, which complicated the narrative. Neighbors reported seeing a suspicious vehicle near the Pay House around the time of the murder, providing the first significant lead. When Nathan's family arrived, Michelle's overly theatrical reaction raised suspicions. During questioning, Michelle mentioned a colleague, Michael Rodriguez, linking him to the murder. This prompted the police to investigate Michael's background and relationship with Michelle. Detectives uncovered a web of deceit and hidden motives, leading to a deeper investigation. Michelle's phone records revealed crucial evidence. The investigation pieced together the sinister plot behind Nathan's tragic death, uncovering connections, linking the suspects. Michael's criminal record and suspicious behavior led to intense questioning by the police. Examination of Michelle's phone revealed a year-long correspondence with Michael, filled with coded messages that suggested a deeper connection. Confident in their involvement, the police continued their investigation, uncovering more incriminating evidence. This persistent effort eventually led to confessions from the involved parties. As the portions of the puzzle came collectively, the police made numerous arrests, bringing those accountable for the heinous plot to justice. The web of deceit and conspiracy turned into fully exposed, revealing the true quantity in their involvement, breaking down confessions and arrests. Michelle eventually broke down and confessed to both the affair with Michael Rodriguez and their murder plot against Nathan. Her detailed confession shed light on the motives and planning behind the crime. Shortly after, Shannon turned herself in, providing crucial testimony that corroborated Michelle's story and added more depth to the investigation. Detectives meticulously pieced together the conspiracy, revealing a carefully planned execution. The evidence was overwhelming, leading to the arrests and charges against all involved parties. The court proceedings were prolonged and intense, with each suspect facing the full weight of the law. Michelle pleaded guilty, accepting her role in the plot, and the other accomplices, including Michael and Corey, also faced justice. All were handed life sentences, ensuring they would be held accountable for their actions. The outcome brought a sense of closure to Nathan's grieving family, although the scars of betrayal would linger. A tragic legacy reflection. Nathan's murder had a profound impact on his family and community, shattering trust and security. Michelle's actions destroyed their family, but moments of humanity emerged. The Pay family showed incredible compassion by requesting Michelle be spared from the death penalty. Nathan's legacy of dedication, love, and integrity continued to inspire those who knew him. The community honored his memory and upheld his values, coming together despite the betrayal. Friends and neighbors held vigils and shared stories of Nathan's positive influence. This tragedy highlighted the iconic energy of love, forgiveness, and the strength of the human spirit in adversity. Nathan's story reminds us of the significance of compassion and resilience in the face of difficulty, honoring Nathan's memory. Following Nathan's murder, intense legal battles ensued, with Michelle's court apologies often met with skepticism. Her movements led to lifelong effects for herself and left a lasting impact on their family. Despite the tragedy, Nathan's reminiscence lived on via his kids and the loved memories held via his cherished ones. His story serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the devastating effects of betrayal. It also highlights the significance of compassion, forgiveness, and resilience. As the community and circle of relatives navigated the aftermath, Nathan's legacy of willpower, love, and integrity continued to encourage individuals who knew him. His life and premature demise inspire us to reflect on our very own relationships and the values we maintain expensive.
dies. You won't believe what happened at a peaceful marina. A beloved mother of 4 was found hanging from a dock, and her boyfriend has been charged with her death. In this video, we're diving deep into the shocking details, unraveling the mystery piece by piece. What led to this tragic event? Who is really responsible? Stick around because we've got exclusive insights and jaw-dropping revelations that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, you don't want to miss a second of this. Are you ready to uncover the shocking details behind one of the most chilling discoveries in League City's history? Today, we dive deep into the mysterious and tragic death of Giselle Tapia Salazar. What happened on that fateful morning at Wharf Marina? Get ready for a story filled with suspense, unexpected twists, and a quest for justice. Let's begin. The quiet morning of May 31st, 2024, the Wharf Marina in League City, Texas, regarded for its serene waters and scenic views, became all at once converted into a scene of tragedy. Giselle Tapia Salazar, a 30-year vintage mom of 4 and a cherished member of the network, was located putting from a dock, sending shockwaves through the town. James Hart, Giselle's boyfriend with whom she shared a boat, pronounced her lacking around 6 a.m., sparking a direct police response. Residents of League City, aware of the marina's tranquil ambience, were taken aback through the grim discovery. The incident raised pressing questions on the situation's meaning to Giselle's dying and triggered a rapid and thorough research. Christian Allen, a neighbor who first noticed Giselle's frame, to start with mistook it for an object within the water earlier than realizing the tragic truth. As information spread, the community grappled with disbelief and sorrow, amassing in vigils and memorials to honor Giselle's memory. The media's coverage intensified public hobby, highlighting the need for answers. Law enforcement businesses, consisting of local police and federal authorities, launched into a meticulous research, reviewing substantial surveillance photos and conducting interviews to piece together the events preceding Giselle's tragic loss of life. The Wharf Marina, once a sanctuary for entertainment and community gatherings, now stood as a poignant image of loss and unanswered questions. Giselle's loss of life, not handiest, shattered the tranquility of the place, however additionally united the metropolis in a shared determination toward seeking justice. The investigation into her dying promised to unravel the thriller and offer closure to a network mourning the lack of a colorful member. Imagine starting your day with a peaceful walk, only to stumble upon a horrifying scene. That's exactly what happened at Wharf Marina. What led to the shocking discovery of Giselle Tapia Salazar's body hanging from a dock? Let's uncover the details of this chilling morning. The Wharf Marina, once a picturesque retreat, became now the backdrop for a complicated research into the instances surrounding Giselle Tapia Salazar's premature dying. The early morning discovery via Christian Allen, who to begin with mistook her useless shape for an inanimate object, activate a series of occasions that might grip the network of League City. James Hart's record of her disappearance earlier that morning introduced urgency to the unfolding situation, prompting law enforcement to mobilize quickly. Authorities meticulously combed through the scene, analyzing every detail to recognize how Giselle, a beloved mother, came to be putting from the quay dock. The question of the way this kind of tragedy should spread in an area acknowledged for its tranquility and scenic splendor weighed heavily on residents. The investigation, which blanketed an in-depth evaluate of surveillance footage and thorough interviews, aimed to piece collectively the timeline leading up to her death and shed light on the circumstances that led to this grim final results. The surprise and grief rippled through the network as the news unfolded, turning the once serene marina right into a somber reflection of loss and unanswered questions. Vigils and gatherings in Giselle's memory became a focal point for the ones searching for solace and justice, underscoring the impact of her dying on people who knew her. Media coverage amplified the general public's hobby, drawing attention to the need for readability and responsibility within the research. As investigators continued their painstaking work, the community rallied around Giselle's circle of relatives, presenting aid and harmony throughout this hard time. The Wharf Marina, once a place of enjoyment and escape, now stood as a poignant reminder of existence reduced short and the determination to find justice for Giselle Tapia Salazar. The serene Wharf Marina, known for its beauty, was shattered by the discovery of Giselle's body. How did the community react to such a gruesome finding in their tranquil haven? Let's delve into the raw emotions and disbelief that swept through League City. On the tranquil morning of May 31st, 2024, the discovery of Giselle Tapia Salazar's frame at Wharf Marina dispatched shockwaves via League City. Residents, familiar with the quay's serene surroundings for amusement and community gatherings, have been greatly surprised by way of the grim turn of activities. The non-violent waters, which as soon as mirrored the calm sky, now bore witness to an unsettling tragedy that challenged the network's experience of protection and normalcy. Friends and friends, who frequented the marina for relaxation and exercise, observed themselves grappling with disbelief and sorrow as information of Giselle's dying spread rapidly. The initial confusion and subject surrounding her disappearance earlier that morning had been compounded via the heartbreaking discovery of her dead form placing from the dock. Christian Allen, a neighbor whose recurring morning walk became interrupted via the sight, stated the disbelief of mistaking her frame for something else earlier than knowing the tragic fact. The network's emotional reaction became palpable as they amassed in impromptu vigils and memorials to honor Giselle's memory. These gatherings have become an area for sharing testimonies of her kindness and the high-quality impact she had on those around her. The outpouring of grief underscored the deep loss felt by way of Giselle's own family and pals, highlighting the profound impact of her unexpected and tragic dying at the network. Media coverage of the incident played an important role in shaping public notion and information of the unfolding tragedy. News outlets said notably on the investigation, detailing the community's surprise and the efforts of regulation enforcement to unravel the circumstances surrounding Giselle's loss of life. The media's portrayal amplified the urgency for answers and underscored the want for transparency in the research manner. As the investigation progressed, the serene backdrop of Wharf Marina transformed into a solemn reminder of Giselle's lifestyles and the unanswered questions surrounding her death. The community's collective grief and the search for justice have become intertwined with memories of happier times spent at the quay, growing a poignant evaluation among past tranquility and present sorrow. With suspicions of foul play looming, investigators launched into a relentless search for the truth. How did they piece together the events leading up to Giselle's tragic death? Join us as we explore the intense investigation that gripped the entire community. Following the discovery of Giselle Tapia Salazar's body at Wharf Marina on May 31st, 2024, suspicions of foul play at once surfaced, prompting a speedy and complete research. Law enforcement corporations, which includes local police and federal government, mobilized to scrutinize the occasions surrounding her death. The research became marked by meticulous efforts to collect evidence and interview witnesses who might shed light at the occasions leading to Giselle's tragic demise. One of the primary challenges faced through investigators became the review of extensive surveillance pictures from the jetty and its surroundings. Nearly 2,000 movies had been meticulously analyzed to identify any suspicious pastime or capacity leads that might resolve the thriller. The mission demanded a scientific approach to make sure no detail was overlooked in the pursuit of reality and justice. Forensic professionals played a pivotal position in the investigation, meticulously examining physical proof recovered from the scene. This included studying Giselle's apparel, personal belongings, and other items observed close to her frame to ascertain any symptoms of conflict, injury, or different essential clues that might provide insights into the situations of her loss of life. Interviews with witnesses emerged as any other essential factor of the investigation, aimed at constructing a timeline of activities and accumulating statistics pivotal to know how the moments leading up to Giselle's tragic give up. Investigators diligently pursued leads and cross-referenced witness statements with bodily proof to set up a coherent narrative of what transpired on that fateful morning. The investigation into Giselle's demise worried close coordination and collaboration amongst diverse regulation enforcement agencies, reflecting the complexity and gravity of the case. Local police worked hand in hand with nation government and federal businesses to pool sources and knowledge, ensuring a complete technique to uncovering the truth and bringing closure to the grieving community. As the investigation stepped forward, public interest and media scrutiny intensified, amplifying the urgency for answers and duty. The network's call for justice echoed through public demonstrations and appeals for facts, underscoring the collective clear-up to searching for closure for Giselle's circle of relatives and prevent such tragedies from habitual of their midst. Throughout the research, amid mounting suspicion and public hobby, Hart's protection group engaged vigorously in refuting allegations and offering opportunity reasons to counter the prosecution's claims. The courtroom have become a level for prison battles, characterized with the aid of heated exchanges, emotional testimonies, and the presentation of evidence intended to sway the jury's perception. As the trial spread out, the prosecution asserted prices towards Hart, accusing him of tampering with evidence to impede justice. These allegations underscored the gravity of the case, suggesting planned moves geared toward altering the crime scene and influencing the investigation's outcome. The defense countered with techniques geared toward casting doubt at the prosecution's narrative and harmed the credibility of witnesses and proof provided. The judicial lawsuits surrounding Hart's involvement in Giselle's dying highlighted the complexities of crook regulation and the emotional toll on all parties involved. Key moments in the court docket drama included the presentation of forensic evidence, expert testimony, and the emotional effect on both the sufferers and defendants' households. Throughout the trial, the Chiefs performed a pivotal position in overseeing lawsuits, ensuring adherence to prison standards and honest treatment of all events. Decisions regarding the admissibility of evidence and procedural subjects have been crucial in shaping the final results of the case and determining Hart's legal culpability. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the community and Giselle's family awaited justice with bated breath, looking for closure and duty for her untimely loss of life. The trial served as a stark reminder of the profound effect of home tragedies and the importance of a radical and impartial felony system in addressing them. Shocking evidence and serious charges against James Hart. How did the prosecution build their case? We'll break down the crucial moments that painted Hart's actions as deliberate and deceptive. You won't believe what the evidence reveals. Charges had been introduced towards James Hart because the trial stepped forward, alleging he had interfered with evidence to hinder justice following Giselle Tapia Salazar's loss of life on May 31, 2024. The seriousness of those accusations recommended deliberate moves aimed at altering the crime scene and deceptive investigators. The prosecution's case centered on distinct evidence alleging tampering with Giselle's belongings and tries to govern forensic findings. Throughout the trial, the prosecution offered a series of compelling evidence towards Hart, aiming to set up a story of guilt. This protected testimony from witnesses, forensic professionals, and analysis of surveillance pictures from the marina. Each piece of proof changed into meticulously scrutinized to build a case that painted Hart's moves as intentional and geared toward protecting up the circumstances of Giselle's demise. In response, Hart's defense group hooked up a sturdy protection approach, Hart the prosecution's evidence and witness stories. They sought to create doubt across the allegations of proof tampering, presenting opportunity reasons and wondering the reliability of the prosecution's narrative. The court became a battleground where felony arguments and emotional stakes collided, with both sides vying to form the jury's perception and have an effect on the trial's outcome. Key moments in the course of the trial protected the dramatic presentation of evidence, emotional testimonies, and extreme cross-examinations aimed at uncovering the reality at the back of Giselle's dying. The judge's position in overseeing the lawsuits became vital, making sure equity and adherence to criminal standards at some point of the trial. As the trial progressed, public hobby remained excessive, with media coverage amplifying the stakes and highlight on the case. The network's collective grief and demand for justice underscored the profound impact of Giselle's loss of life and the significance of conserving those accountable via an intensive felony manner. The community's response was nothing short of emotional. Vigils, memorials, and public outcry. How did League City rally around Giselle's family? Let's explore the powerful reaction that united the community in their demand for justice. Following Giselle Tapia Salazar's tragic loss of life at the Wharf Marina on May 31, 2024, the League City network was deeply shaken. Known for its serene ecosystem, the marina had emerged as the backdrop for a sudden and devastating occasion that left residents grappling with shock and sorrow. Giselle, a beloved mom of 4, were a cherished member of the community, recognized for her warmth and generosity. In reaction to the tragedy, vigils and memorials had been prepared to honor Giselle's reminiscence. These gatherings have become emotional focal factors wherein buddies, circle of relatives, and network individuals amass to pay their respects and provide aid to one another. Candles have been lit, prayers have been said, and heartfelt tributes have been shared, reflecting the profound impact Giselle had on the ones around her. Esperanza Alegria, Giselle's sister, emerged as a vocal advocate for justice, expressing her own family's dedication to seek answers and hold accountable the ones answerable for Giselle's demise. The network rallied around the Tapia Salazar circle of relatives, organizing fundraising activities and awareness campaigns to support them throughout this difficult time. Public demonstrations and marches have become structures for network contributors to specify their call for justice and make certain that Giselle's demise would now not be useless. These occasions galvanized public guide and underscored the community's cohesion in searching for closure and duty. Throughout the grieving method, the media performed a crucial role in amplifying the network's voice and preserving the public knowledgeable about developments in the case. Their insurance highlighted the continuing investigation, legal court cases, and network efforts to honor Giselle's legacy. As the investigation endured, the community remained steadfast in their dedication to finding justice for Giselle Tapia Salazar. Their unwavering aid and determination were a testimony to the power of network team spirit inside the face of tragedy. The search for answers didn't end with the initial findings. What new leads and evidence emerged as the investigation continued? Join us as we follow the relentless pursuit of truth by law enforcement agencies. In the wake of Giselle Tapia Salazar's tragic death on the Wharf Marina on May 31, 2024, law enforcement companies launched into an extensive and complex investigation to get to the bottom of the situations surrounding her passing. This research spanned more than one jurisdictions and involved collaboration among neighborhood police, country government, and federal groups, highlighting the gravity and complexity of the case. Forensic analysis performed a pivotal position in the investigation, with specialists meticulously analyzing physical evidence recovered from the scene. This covered scrutinizing Giselle's apparel, private assets, and any items determined in close proximity to her body. Every detail became tested to decide if there were signs of war, accidents, or other clues that might shed light at the occasions main to her demise. Surveillance pictures from the jetty and surrounding areas have become an essential focus of the research, with investigators meticulously reviewing lots of hours of pictures. Each frame was analyzed in element, looking for any suspicious interest or capability leads that could offer insight into what passed off to Giselle inside the moments earlier than her death. Interviews with witnesses, which includes folks that were at the jetty across the time of the incident, were performed extensively. Investigators sought to piece collectively a timeline of occasions and accumulate records that would help establish the series of activities main up to Giselle's tragic discovery. The investigation relied closely on public assistance, with law enforcement urging anyone with information associated with Giselle's demise to come ahead. Community engagement was vital in generating leads and providing additional views that would useful resource in fixing the case. As the research stepped forward, updates had been regularly communicated to the public through media briefings and network outreach efforts. This transparency helped keep public recognition and underscored the dedication of regulation enforcement to uncovering the reality and turning in justice for Giselle Tapia Salazar and her circle of relatives. The ongoing efforts of law enforcement and forensic professionals underscored a commitment to thoroughness and diligence of their pursuit of justice. Despite the demanding situations posed through the case's complexity, authorities remained committed to uncovering all applicable records and bringing closure to Giselle's loved ones and the community affected by her untimely dying. How does Giselle's case compare to other high-profile investigations? We'll take a look at similar cases to understand the challenges faced and the strategies employed to seek justice. This broader perspective is essential to grasp the full picture. To completely realize the complexities surrounding Giselle Tapia Salazar's case, it's far crucial to observe it inside the context of comparable incidents in the wider prison framework. comparative instances provide valuable insights into investigative strategies and criminal techniques hired in cases of suspicious deaths, especially the ones occurring in apparently tranquil settings just like the Wharf Marina in League City, Texas. Each case, at the same time, is specific in its details, stocks not unusual factors that shed light on the challenges confronted with the aid of regulation enforcement and judicial government. For example, investigations into suspicious deaths often depend on huge forensic evaluation, surveillance footage overview, and witness testimony to reconstruct events leading up to the tragedy. Legal strategies and court docket techniques play a big function in shaping the outcome of such cases. Defense and prosecution teams strategically navigate proof presentation and witness tales to persuade jury perceptions and set up their respective narratives. Understanding these dynamics gives crucial insights into how Giselle's case became approached and controlled in the prison system. Media insurance and public response also have an effect on the trajectory of excessive profile investigations. Public demonstrations, vigils, and community outreach efforts function systems for expressing collective grief and annoying justice. Examining comparable cases offers a broader perspective on how media portrayal and public sentiment can impact the investigative process in felony proceedings. By exploring parallels with other awesome instances, along with those concerning unresolved mysteries or contentious criminal trials, we benefit a deeper know-how of the investigative demanding situations and prison complexities inherent in cases like Giselle's. This comparative method underscores the importance of thoroughness, transparency, and community engagement in addressing such touchy topics and making sure accountability inside the justice device. And the prison complaints noticed James Hart, Giselle's boyfriend, facing severe expenses associated with the case, reflecting the complexities and demanding situations of the justice system. The courtroom have become a battleground where arguments had been provided, proof scrutinized, and emotions ran excessive. The ongoing investigation persevered to have interaction with both local and federal authorities, emphasizing the collaborative attempt to uncover the truth. Public participation remained important, with appeals for records and community aid riding the search for solutions. As the community mourns Giselle's untimely loss of life, they stay hopeful that justice will be triumphant. Her legacy of kindness and love will keep to inspire efforts to ensure responsibility and closure for her family and loved ones. Thank you for following this story. Your continued engagement and guide are preferred as we watch for similarly traits in this ongoing investigation. Together, we attempt to honor Giselle Tapia Salazar's memory and uphold the standards of justice and fact.
To justice? Today we're diving into 10 infamous crime testimonies that not handy as shook the arena, but additionally ended with the perpetrators getting precisely what they deserved. So, buckle up and allow us embark on this exciting adventure through some of the darkest but maximum charming chapters of criminal records. Number 1, the Ted Bundy case. Imagine someone who should allure his way into everyone's pleasant to show into their worst nightmare. Ted Bundy, a name synonymous with terror, confessed to 30 homicides at some stage in 7 states among 1974 and 1978. His deceptive character allowed him to trap his sufferers clearly. Despite a couple of escapes, the relentless pursuit with the resource of law enforcement subsequently led to his capture. Bundy met his stop in the electric-powered chair on January 24, 1989, ensuring he ought to never damage another soul again. His case highlighted the importance of expertise in profiling serial killers, a practice that has stored infinite lives while you remember that. Now permit circulate onto some different high-profile case that gripped the world. Number 2, the O.J. Simpson trial. Picture this. A beloved sports hero became homicide suspect. In 1994, O.J. Simpson altered into blamed for the merciless killings of his ex-accomplice, Nicole Earthy-Colored Simpson, and her buddy Ron Goldman. The trial modified into a media circus, charming tens of millions and dividing public opinion. Though Simpson became acquitted in the criminal court docket, the civil courtroom docket observed him in price, awarding $33.5 million in damages to the patient's households. This case stays a stark reminder of the complexities inside the prison system and the energy of media in influencing public notion. Next, we delve into a case of corporate greed and downfall. Number 3, the Enron scandal. Corporate greed at its worst, Enron, as soon as a darling of Wall Street, collapsed in 2001 because of huge accounting fraud. Executives like Jeffrey Skilling and Kenneth Lay manipulated economic statements, inflicting the loss of thousands of jobs and billions in monetary economic savings. Skilling's 24 to 12 months jail sentence and Lay's loss of lifestyles before sentencing marked the fall of these company giants. This scandal underscored the importance of employer ethics and regulation, prompting stricter legal guidelines to save you such fraud in the future. Now, permits take a ride to the United Kingdom for each different chilling story. Number 4. The Yorkshire Ripper case, Peter Sutcliffe. Presently experienced decline lower back to the 1970s in the UK, in which dread grasped the roads on account of the Yorkshire Ripper. Peter Sutcliffe mercilessly killed 13 young ladies and went after 7 others, spreading dread and suspicion. The police confronted serious examination for their overseeing of the case, as they missed a few prospects to hold on to him prior. Sutcliffe's capture in 1981 added comfort and justice as he changed into sentence to 20 concurrent life sentences. His lack of existence in jail in 2020 closed this darkish financial ruin, highlighting the want for higher investigative strategies and police coordination. Let's move beforehand to a greater modern-day and tragic occasion in the United States. Number 5. The Boston Marathon bombing. On a brilliant April day in 2020, the Boston Marathon grew to be tragic as bombs exploded, killing 3 and injuring loads. The Tsarnaev brothers orchestrated this heinous act of terror, concentrated on harmless spectators and runners. After a dramatic manhunt, Tamerlan became killed in a shootout with police, and Dzhokhar became captured, later sentenced to death. This incident highlighted the resilience of the network, the short movement of law enforcement, and the importance of vigilance and preparedness in opposition to terrorism. Shifting gears, permits discover an exceptionally publicized murder case. Number 6. The Casey Anthony case. In 2008, the mysterious demise of 2 one-year vintage Kaylee Anthony brought about her mom. Casey Anthony, reputation trial. Public opinion become fierce, and the media become relentless, often portraying Casey as responsible earlier than the trial even started out. Despite being acquitted of murder, Casey have become convicted of offering fake information to police. The verdict sparked debates approximately the justice device's capacity to deal with circumstantial proof and the have an effect on of media insurance on jail proceedings. Next up, a scandal that rocked Hollywood to its center. Number 7. The Harvey Weinstein scandal. Hollywood's darkest secrets got here to mild whilst numerous ladies accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual attack. The 2020 conviction of Weinstein for rape and sexual assault turned into a landmark second in the Taj or Me Too movement, which endorsed countless others to speak up in competition to their abusers. His 12 months prison sentence served as a powerful message closer to the abuse of strength and highlighted the need for systemic adjustments to guard sufferers in the leisure industry and past. Number 8. The Amanda Knox case. Amanda Knox's cycle started in 2007 with the manslaughter of her level-mate Meredith Kircher in Italy. The case transformed into a media peculiarity, complete of exciting bends in the road, and Knox changed into described as both a reprobate and a victim. Next, let's discover one of the most essential financial frauds in information. Number 9. The Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. Bernie Madoff arranged the main Ponzi plot in records, cheating financial backers of $65 billion. His scheme, which promised excessive returns with little hazard, collapsed at a few stages within the 2008 economic crisis. Madoff's arrest in 2008 and subsequent 150-year prison sentence in 2009 introduced some solace to his limitless sufferers. Madoff's downfall is a stark caution about the dangers of unchecked monetary schemes and the importance of regulatory oversight to defend traders. Finally, let's communicate a case that uncovered a community of abuse and exploitation. Number 10. The Jeffrey Epstein case. Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 capture for intercourse dealing uncovered an organization of misuse and double dealing that crossed quite a while. His connections to effective people made the case particularly infamous and debatable. Epstein's mysterious death in jail became formally dominated as suicide, but questions linger, fueling numerous conspiracy theories. Epstein's companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, became later convicted and sentenced to 20 years, making sure that justice became partly served. This case has sparked exquisite calls for higher protection of susceptible individuals and responsibility for the ones in electricity. These reminiscences, no longer most effective, captivated the world, however additionally highlighted the relentless pursuit of justice. From serial killers to employer fraudsters, those criminals in the end faced the results of their movements. With that said, thanks for searching.
puzzled what it takes to tug off a number of the arena's most bold heists? Picture the meticulous planning, the breakup timing, and the sheer audacity. Today, we're diving deep into the interesting international of high-stakes robberies that left anybody, from the police to the public, absolutely shocked. We'll discover the problematic information, smart strategies, and bold actions that made those heists unforgettable. You'll be amazed at the lengths those individuals went to so one could reap their desires. But remember, those moves come with severe consequences, and crime never pays. So, stay tuned as we get to the bottom of these exquisite memories and find out about the proper cost of such daring deeds. You may not need to overlook a second of this. We've got something that's without a doubt interesting for you. We're diving into a number of the most jaw-dropping heists ever pulled off. These are not your regular ruin and clutch robberies. Those are meticulously deliberate operations that left the sector stunned. From the problematic information to the bold moves, these heists are the stuff of legends. We'll take you through the smart strategies, the fantastic risks, and the remaining effects of these incredible crimes. But keep in mind that regardless of how fascinating these tales are, crime by no means will pay. In the ceasefire, these criminals confronted justice and the consequences of their moves. So get equipped to be surprised as we explore those unforgettable heists. Let's leap right in and uncover the memories behind these incredible occasions. You might not want to miss a second of this. Number 1. The Pink Panthers at Wafi Mall, Dubai, 2007. Let's start with a heist immediately out of a Hollywood movie. Picture this. It's a normal day at the highly priced Wafi Mall in Dubai, again in 2007. Suddenly, chaos erupts. The infamous Pink Panthers gang storms in using stolen cars, smashing through the glass doors. In just 170 seconds, yes, only 170 seconds, they steal $3.4 million worth of jewels. Their secret? Incredible speed, boldness, and a flair for the dramatic. They even set their getaway cars on fire to destroy any evidence. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a daring statement that left everyone in shock. Despite their initial success, the law eventually caught up with many gang members, proving that crime never pays. The way they planned and executed this heist, using fast cars and creating chaos, made it unforgettable. But in the end, justice won, and many of the Pink Panthers were arrested, showing that the law always catches up. Heist 2. Graf Diamonds, London, 2009. Next, we head to London. At 4:40 p.m. at Graf Diamonds on New Bond Street, two men pulled off a bold heist. Disguised with prosthetic makeup, they stole $65 million in jewels in just 120 seconds. Their escape plan was like a movie. They knew the store's layout, staff routines, and nearby streets for a flawless getaway. They switched vehicles multiple times to evade pursuers, showing their meticulous planning. The duo moved with such confidence that it looked choreographed. They were in and out in minutes, leaving a scene of shock and awe. However, their downfall was a dropped phone. This mistake was a crucial clue. The phone led police directly to the masterminds behind the heist. Despite their precision, their luck ran out. The thieves were eventually caught, proving that crime doesn't pay. Their heist was an artful show of deception and precision, but one small mistake unraveled their plans. This capture reminds us that no matter how clever the criminals, the law will always catch up. Number 3. Bank of America, Tacoma, 2006. In Tacoma, Washington, former U.S. soldier Luke Elliott Summer and his crew, equipped like an elite military unit, raided a Bank of America. In just 141 seconds, they took 54,011s. This heist, nearly perfect except for a visible license plate, showcased a disturbing use of military tactics for criminal ends. Summer and his team used their military knowledge to execute the heist with precision, employing distraction tactics and a clear chain of command. They wore body armor and carried high-powered rifles, creating terror and chaos inside the bank. Despite their initial success, the visible license plate on their getaway vehicle led to their rapid capture. Summer's military background was both a strength and a downfall, as investigators quickly connected the dots. This heist highlights the dangers of highly trained individuals turning their skills towards crime. showing once again that crime doesn't pay. Ultimately, justice prevailed, and Sommer and his team were apprehended, proving that even the most well-planned crimes have consequences. Their story serves as a powerful reminder of the thin line between skill and lawlessness. Number 4. VIP Watch and Jewelry, Hong Kong, 2018. Our journey continues to bustling Hong Kong in the vibrant district of Tsim Sha Tsui in July 2018. 3 masked individuals burst into VIP Watch and Jewelry. With minimal weapons but maximum efficiency, they broke the display cases and, in just 90 seconds, fled with luxury watches and bracelets worth nearly $3 million. Their prearranged escape car, later found burned, showed their chilling foresight and precision. This heist stood out due to the simplicity of their tools, a knife and a retractable baton, yet their execution was flawless. The injured store employee, struck with the baton, added a layer of brutality, highlighting the robbers' willingness to use violence to achieve their goals. Despite their meticulous planning, diligent law enforcement ensured their eventual capture. The speed and coordination of their actions left the public in shock and fear. This heist is a stark reminder of how even the most straightforward plans can cause significant fear and disruption, proving once again that crime never pays. The aftermath serves as a testament to the swift action of the authorities in restoring. Number 5. George Thaf Hotel, Paris, 2014. In the romantic city of Paris in 2014, stealth took a dramatic turn. As a Saudi prince exited the grandeur of the George Thaf Hotel, his convoy was ambushed by 8 masked assailants. With almost surgical precision, they snatched a briefcase full of valuables and confidential documents within moments. The audacity and swiftness of the heist left bystanders and authorities in shock. This wasn't just theft. It was a meticulously orchestrated attack on a high-profile figure. The robbers demonstrated an intimate knowledge of the prince's schedule and security details, indicating extensive pre-heist surveillance. The fact that such a high-profile target could be ambushed in broad daylight in a busy area underscores the boldness of the criminals. Their plan showed a level of sophistication and preparation that made the heist seem almost effortless. The speed and precision of their actions were astonishing, and they managed to execute the ambush without any immediate pursuit. This heist highlighted the vulnerability even of the most covered people whilst faced with well-coordinated attacks. However, in spite of their preliminary achievement, the relentless efforts of law enforcement organizations caused the eventual capture of the perpetrators. The robbers had been tracked down and taken to justice, proving another time that crime doesn't pay. This dramatic heist serves as a reminder of the dangers and results associated with targeting immoderate profile figures and the inevitable reach of the regulation. Number 6. Varani Jewelers, New Jersey, 2022. Finally, we arrive in New Jersey. Just before closing time in June 2022, 8 gunmen stormed into Varani Jewelers. In an operation lasting only 60 seconds, they executed a military-style raid, escaping with $1 million worth of jewelry. Their selection of the store, timing, and flawless execution pointed to a deeply calculated and rehearsed plan that left the community reeling and fearful. The robbers' confidence and precision suggested they had conducted extensive reconnaissance and rehearsed their movements down to the second. The impact on the local community was profound, as such a brazen daylight robbery shattered the sense of security. The heist left everyone in shock, highlighting the vulnerability of even well-established businesses. Yet, as with all of the different heists we've mentioned, regulation enforcement in the end caught up with the criminals. Their capture underscored the relentless pursuit of justice and served as a reminder that crime doesn't pay. The aftermath saw neighborhood corporations banding together to prevent future incidents, reinforcing the community's resilience and commitment to safety. Finally, if we explore as these daring tales, we see the thin line between brilliance and infamy. Each heist shows meticulous planning and bold moves, but they all end the same way, with justice. These stories remind us that crime never truly pays off. Despite their initial success, each criminal was eventually caught. Law enforcement's dedication ensures that criminals are always brought to justice. These narratives highlight both the thrill of the heists and the inevitable consequences. While we might marvel at the boldness and creativity of these criminals, we should equally appreciate the relentless efforts of those who enforce the law. Ultimately, justice prevails, proving that crime is never worth the consequences. Which heist surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.